Hi, I'm Annie Fitzsimmons. I'm your Washington REALTORS legal hotline lawyer. Today's question comes out of our legal hotline mailbag. The question is, we have several realtors in town that are following advice from a lender who asks them to negotiate the terms of the Form 35R on a Form 35R, but then, after the parties have agreed on the Form 35R, to rewrite the agreement on a blank addendum, leaving out all reference to the inspection or repairs so that the lender's underwriter never sees the Form 35R. We have been told that the correct practice is to have one 35R for the office file and a different addendum that the buyer turns into their lender. We feel like this is fraud and refuse to participate in this practice. What is the right approach? The answer to the question is that the question asker is exactly right. This is a fraudulent practice, and fraud is bad enough. This is a fraudulent practice, and it's also an incredibly dangerous contractual problem for seller. Why? Let's pick a dollar value. Let's say that the buyer and seller negotiate that seller will, I don't care how you do it, either make repairs that are going to amount to $1,500, or seller will make a monetary concession to buyer either in the form of a price reduction or pay some of buyer's closing costs in the amount of $1,500. Let's just say that we're dealing with a $1,500 dollar value in this question, all right? And buyer and seller, according to this question, buyer and seller negotiate the Form 35R and they reach agreement on the Form 35R. And there's going to be a $1,500 hit to the seller based on this agreement. And that is the result of buyer's inspection, their inspection contingency, so that when seller has agreed and buyer has agreed, there has been a satisfaction of buyer's inspection contingency. Buyer can no longer terminate the transaction based on their inspection contingency because it's now been satisfied. Now assume that you take that $1,500 answer, which is already represented by the mutual signatures of buyer and seller on the Form 35R, and you now lift it off of the Form 35R and rewrite it on a Form 34, and both parties initial the Form 34. Contractually, isn't it true then that the seller has agreed on Form 35R to make a $1,500 concession to the buyer and has also agreed on an addendum to the agreement other than the Form 35R to make another $1,500 concession to the buyer? And the answer is yes, that's exactly what the seller has done. So now the seller doesn't have a $1,500 hit, they have a $3,000 hit, because any court who looks at that contract is going to see seller's signature or initials on two separate addendums. Form 35R is one addendum. Form 34 is a separate addendum. They're not covering the same thing because the Form 35R is the negotiation following buyer's inspection contingency or as part of buyer's inspection contingency, and Form 34 is a standalone addendum. Seller has agreed to make the same concession twice at double the cost to seller. Listing brokers, do not do this. With respect to the fraud, it is not true that buyer's lender is asking for this modification in the terms. Buyer's lender is the underwriter who reviews the contract and makes a decision about whether or not money will be lent. It may be buyer's mortgage broker. It may even be buyer's lender's representative, a bank employee, who makes this suggestion, believing that rewriting the terms of this inspection contingency negotiation on a blank Form 34 is going to make it easier to get the underwriter to consent to make the loan. Why? Well, really, I don't know why, because a competent lender should not be misled by the existence of a Form 35R in a purchase and sale agreement. Most lenders deal easily with a Form 35R negotiation in a purchase and sale agreement. But if it were impactful to a lender, why would it be impactful? Because the parties would be recreating the actual facts, recreating reality to make it appear as though the parties reached some agreement that they really didn't reach. Lender, pay no attention to the negotiations behind that curtain that had to do with an inspection contingency. All you need to see is what we want you to see, which is the terms we've created on the Form 34. It is a Class B felony in Washington State to engage in loan fraud. If you encourage your client to engage in loan fraud, then both you and your client have a problem. Do not do this. Anytime you attempt to alter reality to create a different contractual picture of reality, with the purpose being to induce buyer's lender to make a loan that the lender would otherwise not make, you have either engaged in or abetted the commission of loan fraud. Don't do it. If you have questions about this topic or any other, send an email to me, legalhotline@warealtor.org. Thank you for being a Washington REALTORS member.